Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be working with how to add and subtract polynomials. But before we do that, we have to first ask ourselves, what are like terms? Like terms are when there's variables and exponents that are similar to one another. So for example, you're going to look at 6x, but the problem is what exponent does that x have? It has a 1. On the right hand side, which one also has an x raised to the first power? Hopefully you're thinking this one right here. So this 6x would be similar to 7x, which means I would be able to add or subtract them based on similar terms. My next one is 7x squared y to the first. So if I'm going to be able to combine anything to 7x squared y, it also has to have an x squared to the y. So on the other side, look to see which one has an x squared y. Hopefully you agree it's going to be this one. Third one, look at 18, negative 18x to the third, which one also has an x to the third. Hopefully you see that it's 9x cubed, which means I'm able to combine these two because they're called like terms. And then the last one, 4y to the first, would be similar to negative 10y to the first because, again, they're like terms. So every time that you're adding or subtracting polynomials, you're only able to combine like terms if they have the same exponent or degree, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to try our first problem. And in our first problem, we're just going to be asked to simplify 3x squared plus 5x plus parentheses 2x squared minus 6x. Now, when you're doing this, the most important thing is ask yourself, what's happening between these two parentheses? I hope you agree that this plus sign means that you're going to be adding them. So what you're going to do is you're going to focus on what's in front of each parentheses. In front of this parentheses is the 1. In front of this parentheses is a positive 1. Every time that you have a number in front of a parentheses, you're going to distribute, but there's a problem. If I distribute 1 to any of these two, what's going to happen? Isn't it going to stay the same? 1 times 3 will be 3. So every time that you see it's a positive 1 in the front, just erase these parentheses and keep it as 3x squared plus 5x. And on the right-hand side, whenever you see a positive 1, what do you do again? You just erase these parentheses because if I distribute the 1, it's itself. So drop what you see, which is 2x squared minus 6x. And then your next step after you drop the parentheses, you're going to combine like terms. So for me, I like to put one line on the first term, and I'm going to ask myself, what else has an x squared? I hope you agree it's 2x squared. When I combine 3x squared and 2x squared, I'm going to combine the numbers in the front. What are the coefficients? It's a 3 and a 2. And if I add them, 3 plus 2 is going to be 5, and the x squared remains the same. So once I'm done with that, I like to cross it off so I can focus on the next term, which is going to be 5x, which I'm going to do 2 lines. And then what's similar to it? Negative 6x, so I'm going to draw 2 lines underneath that. And then when I combine these, it's going to be 5 positive minus 6. So when you do 5 minus 6, 1 minus sign, you subtract, you're going to get negative 1. But remember, you don't like to write the 1x, so another way of writing it is 5x squared minus x. And that's my final answer. My final answer would be a binomial 2 terms. And I was able to figure this out by being able to combine like terms, okay? So again, whenever you see a plus sign between two parentheses, ask yourself what's in front of the parentheses. If it's a 1, you don't have to distribute, so just drop the signs. Drop the parentheses, drop them, and then combine like terms by what has a similar exponent. All right, let's try one more. So in example 2, if you feel ready, pause the video, try it, and then see what happens. So for this video, for this problem, I'm going to see that there's 2 parentheses. In the middle is a plus sign. So I'm going to ask myself, what's in front of this parentheses? It's a 1. What's in front of this parentheses? A 1. What do we say? If it's just a 1, just erase the parentheses. So I'm going to have 5x squared minus 3x plus 1. And then the other one's going to also drop, so it's going to be 2x squared plus 7. Now when I go ahead and combine like terms, I'm going to combine terms that are similar. So I see that the first one's 5x squared, and I'm going to ask myself, is there another term that has an x squared? It does, 2x squared. So what I'm going to combine is 5x squared and 2x squared, and I hope you agree it's going to be 7x squared. And then I'm going to cross it off. I'm going to ask myself, there's a 3x. You want to go in the order from degree, but notice there's nothing else that has an x, right? So what happens to this? It just drops down. When it doesn't have a similar term, it just drops. I'm going to cross it off because I'm done with that. And my last terms are similar, are my numbers, my constants. 1 plus 7 is 8, so make sure you put a plus sign in the middle and then add 8, and that will be my final answer. My final answer would be called a trinomial because there's 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. So again, when you see that there's 2 terms being added, that number in the front, if it's a 1, you could just go ahead and drop the parentheses. Okay. So then afterwards, we move on to example 3. And example 3 now is a little bit different. And the reason why it's a little bit different is because if you're going to notice, there's a minus sign. Now, when there's a minus sign, you have to be careful because a minus sign, you have to ask yourself what's in front of the parentheses. For the first one, it's a 1. What do we say when there's a positive 1 in front of it? We just drop this. So it's going to be x squared minus 4. But on the second one, notice it's a negative 1. It's not a positive 1. So if it's a negative 1, you have to actually distribute negative 1 to all your terms. But remember, if you distribute a negative 1 to all your terms, negative 1 times 3 is going to be negative 3x squared. Negative 1 times positive 5 is going to be negative 5x. And then negative 1 times negative 1 is going to be positive 1. Every time that there's a negative in front of your parentheses, all it's going to do is just change all the signs from what it was inside the parentheses. Now, once you distribute, you don't need the parentheses, so you should have one line with all your terms. Then from here, you're just going to go ahead and you're going to combine like terms. So I'm going to look for the x squared. There's another x squared here. So I like to put a 1 in front of it because whenever there's no number in front of a variable, put a 1. So I have 1 minus 3. Hopefully you agree, 1 minus 3 is going to be negative 2x squared. Remember, leave x squared as is. You don't ever touch it. Once you're complete, cross it out. Go to your next variable, which is x. There's only one of them, so just go ahead and drop it. And then after you're done, cross it off so you're done with it. And then the last thing I have is a number. I have negative 4 and 1, so when I combine that, negative 4 plus 1. Remember, 1 minus how you subtract, 4 minus 1 is 3. Keep the sign of the bigger number, so it's going to be negative 3. And I'm done. That's my final answer. Again, my answer would be a trinomial because there's 1, 2, 3 terms. So the big part of this question is when you see that there's a minus sign, make that a 1 and distribute the negative 1, which is going to change all the signs on the back half. Okay, now in our last problem, you're going to see there's going to be also a minus sign, but I want you to try this one on your own. So pause the video, try it on your own, see if you get it right. And then once you're ready, press play. So in this video, I'm going to see 2 parentheses. So I see that there's a 1 in front of here and there's a negative 1 in front of here. Since I know that if it's a positive 1, I don't actually have to distribute because it's going to remain the same. I'm just going to go ahead and drop the parentheses. But on this side, if I distribute negative 1, I have to remember that's actually going to change the signs. So negative 1 times 2 is going to be negative 2x squared. And negative 1 times negative 5 is going to be positive 5x. Now, once I have it all in one line, I'm going to combine like terms. I'm going to be able to combine the 5x squared with the negative 2x squared. So 5 minus 2 is going to be 3x squared. Again, don't combine the exponents, just leave it, drop it. Cross it off once you're done. I see an x and an x. Positive 3, positive 5 add up to give me 8x. And then I see that I'm left with a minus 2, but there's nothing to combine it with. So what happens? It just drops. So when you're not able to have something to combine a similar term, you just drop it. And that's how you go ahead and you add, subtract polynomials. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully it helped.